is Tuesday, January 28th, and I want to talk about my former employer that got me this sweatshirt, CNN. Because the news is out from another former CNNer, Oliver Darcy, that Jim Acosta, who during the first Trump White House term was one of the most high-profile journalists in terms of going back and forth with the president covering that White House, is now out of CNN. And he is leaving, at least according to Oliver Darcy, because the new president of CNN, Mark Thompson, decided to move his time slot. So Jim was holding down a 10 a.m. Eastern time slot. During the day, I mean, prime time is much more high profile in a news organization, but any hour is an hour you would take anchoring if that's what you do for a living. And apparently, Mark Thompson offered Acosta, rather than the 10 a.m. slot, the 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. slot, aka prime time on the West Coast, also aka a time when no one really watches cable news. So rather than take that, it appears as though Jim is leaving. What does this mean? I mean, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that CNN, as well as the Washington Post, as well as lots of other major news organizations, several of which I've worked for, are doing what they can to not antagonize, at a minimum, the new president of the United States. Trump made no secret of his distaste for Jim Acosta. He will celebrate, probably publicly, Jim Acosta leaving CNN. I think CNN probably doesn't want someone who was seen as a prime antagonist, who was hated by the Trump base, hated by the president of the United States, as one of their faces in terms of covering all of this stuff. I think Jim, I don't know Jim well. I didn't know him when I was at CNN. He's always struck me as a tough but fair reporter. Yes, he became villainized during the Trump administration, but largely because, in my opinion, he was asking uncomfortable questions of the Trump administration, which is doing his job, not sort of being unfair. But I do think that this is of a piece of what we have seen, which is over these last few months, which is news organizations trying to get, if not on the right side of Donald Trump, less on the wrong side of Donald Trump. Sort of making clear that they are willing to play ball at some level. And I would remind people, CNN is owned by a massive business conglomerate, with lots and lots of interests all over the map, not just in media. And that plays a role. They are looking out for their shareholders. They want to be seen as less anti-Trump. They want to be seen as fairer, whatever that word means, nonpartisan, whatever that word sometimes means now in the media landscape. But this is a piece of that. Make no mistake. This is in keeping with the Washington Post and the LA Times not endorsing any candidate, not endorsing Kamala Harris during the campaign. This is in keeping with Jeff Bezos going and being part of the Trump inauguration. This is all of a piece. All of these things tie together. And for my part, I just wish Jim well. There is life beyond CNN. I can attest to it. And I would encourage him to launch into the independent journalist space, Substack, YouTube. There's a lot of room to grow here. All right, everybody, take care of yourselves.